Hello, welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen. What have you been listening to lately? I really love knowing the music that people listen to, the genres that people gravitate towards, whether they like older music, newer music. I like the mixtures that we all tend to like of seemingly disparate artists or moods or things like that. And so I thought that we would, through the lens of a tarot deck collection, talk about our music preferences. The way I'm doing this is by using the super random and eclectic titles of a selection of my Spotify Daylists. These are if you don't use Spotify, these are the playlists that Spotify kind of auto-generates for you throughout a day based on the kind of music you usually listen to around that sort of time. They often have really weird titles and use a whole load of kind of micro genres as ways to kind of navigate them, and I think they're a bit of fun. I think they're really interesting, and yeah, I like knowing this kind of stuff about people. So the first one, I thought we'd kind of move through the day, or I thought you could maybe move through the day with me, and we would start with the old jazz standards morning. For when I've been listening to vocal jazz, Lindy Hop and classical jazz, apparently, such as Peggy Lee, Dean Martin and Perez Prado. We're going in with some really like modern and up-to-date stuff, okay? So we're going to start with the Goddess of Love Tarot. This is not the whole deck, I'm partway through trimming it. But I don't know, there's something about her that feels sexy, smoky jazz singer to me. I can imagine her in like kind of a velvet lined jazz club, sipping on a cocktail, maybe smoking a long cigarette. I suppose that's not very morning of me, but maybe it's a morning after the night before. You're, drinking your black coffee and just quietly listening to some classic jazz. That's kind of the character that I have imbued this deck with. I think maybe that's something to do with the creator, Gabriella Herstick. There's something quite, I suppose kind of glamorous about her and her whole, I don't know, the way that she comes across to me has this kind of sort of old world glamour mixed in with like a kind of modern cheekiness thing. And so the Goddess of Love Tarot was my first thought for this old jazz standards morning. I think also like maybe the lyrics of Fever speak to this kind of deck, and just that idea of the kind of sexy, sultry jazz singer is kind of what I'm getting at with this one. Yeah, I think old jazz standards morning, the Goddess of Love Tarot. Moving gently on to what Spotify calls my romcom 1900s morning, which Spotify gave me because I'd listened to what it calls indie sleaze and roller skating in the morning. Some 1900s golden oldies, rom-com, 60s, 70s, old school and 20th century all thrown into one. And the tracks I can see are I Don't Feel Like Dancing by the Scissor Sisters, Suddenly I See by Katie Tunstall, and Not Fair by Lily Allen. So I don't totally know where they're getting 1900s from, but fuck it. Going more by the playlist name than the actual songs it picked out for me, I thought we'd have a look at the Enchanted Tarot, which to me does feel like a 1900s rom-com. It's all of this embroidered, appliqué textile art. I mean, this is an old deck, you've probably seen it before, but these were all part of like a huge tapestry. Well, it's not a tapestry, is it? Like a huge wall hanging mural piece of textile art by the creators. And there's yeah, there's loads of texture. There's like beadwork and applique and embroidery and different bits of fabric and trims and all sorts. And I think it does have quite a, I mean, arguably some of the motifs are older than the 1900s, but I think that in terms of my collection anyway, there's a level of whimsy for your rom-com. I suppose maybe it's a little bit more fantastical at this point, but yeah, I can imagine some like turn of the century 1910s, 1920s beautiful stories being created through the imagery in this deck. Can even maybe imagine some of these trims wouldn't go amiss on like a flapper dress or some sort of beautiful Edwardian piece, or even maybe very, very, very late Victorian. Yeah, all of these trims and stuff. I suppose you could probably run the gamut of most of the 20th century with the imagery and the textiles and the fibres and all of the bits and pieces and embellishments that are in this deck. So while I don't know if this deck really screams Scissor Sisters to me, I mean, maybe, here we go, maybe a little bit more Scissor Sisters. I don't know if it really screams that, or suddenly I see Katie Tunstall is like, I associate it with The Devil Wears Prada. I suppose we've got that fashion textiles thing, if I'm really stretching the metaphor. And yeah, I don't know about Lily Allen either, but I think there's something a wee bit historical about this, and if we're leaning into the actual title of the playlist, then that's where I'm going with it. Okay, so moving into the afternoon, we have, let's start with Belter Cheeky Sunday Afternoon, which is one of my more recent ones, and this is since I've been listening to British indie, British rock and truck, inexplicably. I don't know what that is. And it's given me tracks from like Inhaler and Wonder Horse and The Last Dinner Party, because The Last Dinner Party has been living in my brain for months now. And yeah, the ones that they've given me are all belters, whether that be just a great track or songs that you just want to belt out at the top of your lungs. And so I've chosen one of my louder decks. Thinking about this, I probably could have pulled out the Gentle Thrills, because that is probably my loudest deck, but I didn't think about that. But we have the Magic Tarot by Amaya Arazola and Fournier, and it's a bit weird. It feels like, so if it's a Sunday afternoon, it's maybe you've gone down to the river and you're having a picnic and there's no one around, and so maybe you've got a gramophone. Fuck it, why not? Maybe you've got some sort of beautiful analogue way of playing music and you are just having a whale of a time, having friends and some food and maybe some drinks, and it's all got a bit weird, and one joke has led on to another, and you're all just wheezing with laughter and singing along at the top of your lungs. And yeah, I feel like this deck is that party sort of feeling. It's all a bit weird, maybe you kind of had to be there, but it was a lot of fun. And maybe they're not songs that you would listen to on your own, or that you would listen to like quietly in your headphones. Maybe they're the kind of things that you just have to get real loud with. This is an odd deck that I don't use an awful lot, and every time I pull it out, I am always blown away by how fucking weird it is. So that is my Belter Cheeky Sunday Afternoon deck, the Magic Tarot. It's now a polar opposite. This is a Thursday afternoon. Specifically, this is a sad girl autumn Thursday afternoon. This is, again, The Last Dinner Party, because, like I said, it has been following me around for months, but it's bringing in a bit of Wet Leg and a bit of Wolf Alice, because I've been listening to 2020's alternative and power ballad. So I really leaned into the autumn afternoon thing, and so I'm bringing out Heartwood. I think there's something really autumnal about all of the Three Trees Tarot decks, and while maybe this doesn't feel like the most kind of afternoon deck, there is something more like twilight, evening, nighttime about a lot of them. I really felt that like Sad Girl Autumn was pretty well covered in. There is something a bit wintry. I worked with this for Kelly Bear's Tarot Advent Challenge, and it worked really well for me in December. Oh, look. It's so cozy. But yeah, there's something a bit melancholic, a bit bittersweet. And yeah, this kind of autumnal feeling that I get from a lot of the Three Trees Tarot, and that kind of, there's an element of kind of disrepair and decay to this dilapidated cottage that we find ourselves in, following this little mouse around. And yeah, there's maybe something a little bit sad girl about it. Something a little bit, maybe even Kate Bush wafting around, singing your power ballads. Yeah, I think you could have that. A while the music choices that it gave me were quite modern, and you know, you wouldn't necessarily call this a modern, I mean it's a new deck, it came out last year, but the house and the imagery doesn't really scream modern to me. I think, yeah, this is my, what was it? Sad Girl Autumn Thursday Afternoon, the Heartwood Tarot by Three Trees Tarot. My most used deck of 2024. Be interesting to know if that lines up with the kind of music I was listening to, if I was mostly having a Sad Girl Autumn Thursday Afternoon year. So now we drift into the evening, and this has given me the Dark Academia Forest Evening. This is one that I don't have like the screenshot from, but I did save it. And so this is like Florence and the Machine and Lord and Bleachers and Metric were the tracks that it gave me. I might even be able to link this one down below, because all the other ones are lost to the ether, but this one I have. So for Dark Academia Forest Evening, I chose my most Dark Academia deck, which is the, well, what is this called? Antique Anatomy Modern Tarot Reader Tarot. I think it has different names in different places and different editions and stuff. It is by Claire Goodchild of Black and the Moon, who makes the Memento Mori Oracle, which I periodically lust over on this channel when I do wishlist videos. This is such a gorgeous deck, and I think it really fits the Dark Academia brief. While the colour palette might bring to mind that kind of slightly softer light academia thing, I think the actual contents are a little bit more suited to the Dark Academia. It's a little bit more skulls and kind of macabre imagery, and I think that suits it. And then the forest element is all of these lovely botanicals that, you know, might lull you into a false sense of security were you to find them or stumble upon them in a forest, but I wouldn't necessarily trust them. This deck does feel like it could be quite a Florence and the Machine deck. I don't know if she's made a tarot deck. That feels like something that would be on brand with her like artwork and poetry and stuff. But yeah, all of this like old kind of medical equipment, it's a bit weird, it's a bit gnarly, but then there's these like cute flowers put on top put on top to just, you know, soften the weirdness of it all. I don't think that's totally successful, but I don't think that's also what it's really aiming for. Yeah, so my Dark Academia Forest Evening deck, to go with my Dark Academia Forest Evening playlist, is going to name it again, this one, the something deck. The Antique Anatomy Modern Tarot Reader something deck by Claire Goodchild. And so, still keeping on this evening theme, this is my Happy Folk Hipster Thursday evening. Apparently I listen to music mostly on Thursdays, what can I say? All the funny ones were the ones that came up on Thursdays. This was given to me because I've been listening to what it refers to as mellow rock, indie chill and alternative, with artists such as Modest Mouse, Glass Animals and Alabama Shakes. Does anyone else listen to music on these sorts of playlists? And so you know these songs, but you could not for the life of me, or I could not for the life of you, tell you the name of the song, the name of the artist, the name of the album, any of it. And so there was something about the idea of like folk hipster, but like happy, that made me think of the Every Little Thing You Do Is Magic tarot by Callie Little and Maria Seal. There's something about this that feels hipster to me. Don't ask me too many questions about exactly what I mean by that. But I think there was an element of it that was to do with the guidebook and these little panels it has at the bottom, of where it talks about like channeling the vibe and your mood music and scents and stuff. And then it's quite a happy deck. It's not like the positive wash thing, but then also I think of like folk hipster and I think of sort of naturey, deserty things. The more I say it out loud, the less I'm totally confident about what I mean by that. But this is my pick. This is my pick for my Happy Folk Hipster Thursday evening playlist deck. I really liked the art style of this, and I also really liked what they'd done with the guidebook. I think I'd maybe like to think about getting the workbook thing. I think that's quite a cute idea. There were a couple of cards that like I don't totally get, but yeah, generally speaking, I think that this is a really lovely deck. I'm really pleased that it got picked up mass market. But yeah, I think I'm really starting to doubt myself now, but I was thinking about like Happy Folk Hipster. I thought of like Jack Kerouac on the road. Not happy necessarily, but I think with the mushrooms, and I think I was thinking more hippie than hipster, if I'm honest. And yeah, so I can't really explain this one. I made this choice, I'm sticking with it because I can't think of what other deck I would have chosen for this one. But yeah, this is the Every Little Thing You Do Is Magic tarot, one that winds me up whenever I have to write it down because what a name. And yeah, this is for my Happy Folk Hipster Thursday evening deck. And finally we have a For This Moment playlist, so not one that was given to me with a particular timescale in mind, and it was because I've been listening to alternative and post-punk revival, some garage band post-punk revival, rock-ish glamorous alternative music, and it is teen angst garage band music for this moment. And mostly I saw teen angst and pulled out my inner teen deck, Outgrow Yourself. I don't really know what else to say other than the fact that she's my inner teen deck. I love her so much, but she is an angsty little bean. All of these characters have a lot going on. It does feel very teen angst. I think one of the other angsty playlists I have is something to do with like divorced dad angst, which doesn't feel so much this deck, but apparently also a genre that I frequent with my music tastes. So artists that this playlist included were the Arctic Monkeys, always a staple of mine because I'm very predictable, the Killers and the White Stripes. and fuck me if that isn't exactly what I was listening to when I was a teenager. So my inner teen deck with my inner teen playlist. I don't really know what else there is to say about them. I love this deck, and you know, I've learned to love my inner teen, and I've been enjoying revisiting music from that part of my life and putting new memories in with it rather than the challenging old ones. So that's it, something a little bit short and snappy. If you would like to join in, I'll try and figure out if someone else has done this before, because it doesn't feel like an original idea. But if you would like to join in, you could either use my prompts, or you could, if you use Spotify, you could pop into your own Daylist and see the kind of things it throws out at you, or any of those pre-generated or like frequently regenerated playlists that it gives you all sorts of fun titles and things. Yeah, I'd love to hear what you're listening to, whether you feel like your music taste and your deck taste align or maybe kind of opposed to each other. Yeah, let me know how you're doing. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye. That's so cute. I have these geese I have these geese that fly over my house multiple times a day, and it's nice to see them in a deck.